Her newly adopted dog gave off a foul smell that resulted in the police stepping in. Pets are like family. There is no doubt in the world that a pet loves his or her owners more than anything. Some even say that a pet's love is the only thing close to an unconditional love. So, when this woman adopted her dog, she was ready to take full responsibility for it. She was ready to care for the dog, feed the dog, and love the dog. But in a matter of time, she began to realize that there was something off with the dog. Upon further investigation, she realized that this dog was not an ordinary puppy at all. For a dog lover, what could be more thrilling than owning one yourself? It would be one of the best days ever for anyone who has a strong connection to dogs. So, when the time came for Kelly to pick up the dog she had adopted, it was clear that it was a moment she would never forget. She was certain that this dog she had chosen was the one meant for her. She was ready to give him all that he needed or wanted. Normally, the day one gets to take home a dog should be full of celebration and joy, right? However, this would not prove to be so for poor Kelly. When she finally got her new dog to sit on the inside of her car, she could tell that something was not quite right. She was not exactly sure what was off, but she could sense it. So, since Kelly couldn't just shrug this off, she decided to make a call to the cops. If you love something, more can never be enough. This was the case for Kelly too. So even though Kelly already owned a dog named Brewer, she knew for sure that she still had the capability to take one more under her care. So she decided that it was only right to get herself another one. But Kelly was the type of person who absolutely refused to buy a dog. She wanted to help a dog in need and not just purchase one. Kelly had been eyeing a few dogs, and lucky for her, she was able to find the right dog. It had been quite some time since Kelly had been on the lookout for the perfect dog for herself. She was so happy when she saw a white pit bull mix named Rocco. She was sure that this was the dog she was meant to keep. Kelly did not waste a moment and proceeded with the adoption. She could barely wait to get him home. Where do you think Kelly got to find out about the perfect dog for her? Well, it was quite an unconventional way that Kelly took to look for a new pup. She was actually scrolling through Facebook when she stumbled upon a photo of Rocco. He had been kept there on sale for just $50 by the roommate of Rocco's previous owner. Hence, Kelly had never communicated with Rocco's previous owner at all. Like we had mentioned earlier, Kelly was straight away filled with a need to take Rocco in as her new dog. Kelly was sure from the first moment she laid eyes on him that Rocco was meant to be hers. Since she could not directly talk to the previous owner of the pup, she did not pay much attention to that fact. She then offered to pay for the dog of her dreams, waiting patiently for a response. Kelly was very impatient when it came to dogs. She was just like an excited toddler who couldn't wait to get her hands on her new toys. She hurried to get where Rocco the pit bull was. As soon as the two met, Kelly was head over heels in love with the adorable dog. Who can blame her though? Just look at the little guy. He was certainly one of the sweetest dogs she had ever had the pleasure of meeting. She quickly took her new dog to go to his new home. Kelly was so excited because she knew for a fact that Rocco would make her happy, and she was willing to do anything to make him happy as well. They had connected with one another as soon as they met. So when Kelly took Rocco into her care, she was playing with him and talking to him. She then sensed that there was something terribly wrong with him. She caught a whiff of something dreadful from the dog. Well, you might think that it is quite common for a dog to smell bad, but this was no ordinary dog smell. Kelly, being a dog lover, knew the difference between a smell of a dirty dog and an abnormal smelling one. She then thought up of a few reasons as to why Rocco would smell so bad. She knew that lack of hygiene could definitely be one good reason for this. Rocco for sure had not taken a bath in a long time. Then, Kelly had guessed another reason as to why the bad smell was coming from Rocco. She knew that dogs always have a natural bacterium they get produced in their paws. Some have even compared the smell in their paws to that of Fritos. Kelly was also well aware that she might have been a little too sensitive with her nose, that she was just being a little too dramatic. As Kelly was trying to convince herself that it was just another dog smell, the kind that forms when dogs haven't taken a bath for a while, the smell became unbearable. She was so bothered by it that Kelly had to stop the car. She pulled over right away. She then made her way out of the driver's seat to get closer to Rocco so that she could investigate what was actually wrong with him. So, Kelly hurried to where Rocco was sitting to check where the disgusting smell was coming from. When she looked at the pup, she couldn't tell what the source of the horrible smell that was enveloping the whole car was. Since she could not identify the reason for this issue, she proceeded to take off Rocco's harness. To her surprise, it was then that Kelly realized the source of the vile smell. What Kelly saw was definitely something that would not only disappoint, but scar Kelly forever. When she took off his harness, Kelly saw that on Rocco's chest, a huge gash of around 6 inches long and 1.5 inches deep was present. To her shock, she hadn't noticed that such a horrific scar had been on Rocco's body all along. The harness that he was wearing had completely hidden it. It is times like these that you wish animals could talk. Since Rocco couldn't tell Kelly that he had a huge scar on his chest, there was no way for her to ever guess that it would be there. The terrible scar had been badly infected, so there was no chance for Kelly to even find that out until she took the harness off. Rocco's cut was not a minor one, so she knew he had to be taken to the vet as soon as possible. So, Kelly hurried to get her new dog the help he needed. When they got to the animal hospital, they quickly examined his condition. What the vets found out was that Rocco's infection could be controlled. He was one lucky dog because the cut seemed to be quite serious. Then, Rocco received a few antibiotics and a painkiller. They also informed Kelly that after the infection healed up, Rocco would be fit to be operated on. Since she didn't know what to expect, Kelly was happy to hear about the fact that Rocco would be able to recover soon. Indeed, it was lovely news to hear that the new dog she had just taken responsibility for would be able to overcome his cut and get the proper treatment he needed. There was a big question mark that started to hover around Kelly's head. Who had done such a nasty thing to Rocco? Turns out, Rocco had not been taken care of. In fact, he had gone through what seems like a horrific mistreatment. When Kelly took him to the vet and they took a close examination of Rocco, they found out the startling truth behind his past. He had not been treated with love and care at all. In fact, it was all clear now that Rocco's harness was the cause of his severe infection. As she learned about the dog she had just adopted, Kelly was filled with shock to learn about his harsh upbringing. The doctors had informed Kelly that Rocco had probably been made to wear that harness since he was a puppy. They told her that since he grew up wearing it, it must have fused with his skin. Obviously, Kelly was infuriated and proceeded to call the person who had sold him to her. When a dog lover gets to learn about the crime that has been committed on an innocent pup, there is nothing that will stop them to uncovering the truth. So, as Kelly called the person to tell her about Rocco's injury, the woman did not expect to be confronted at all. Since this was such a shock to her, she was not quick enough to come up with a good excuse, so she tried to bribe Kelly by offering to pay for the medical bills. This would have definitely been the easy way to go about it, but since Kelly knew that this was not the right thing to do, she did not accept the offer. After it was clearly confirmed that Rocco had been abused, she did not waste another second, nor did she try to justify these people's wrongdoings. She did the noblest thing she could think of, calling the police. Since Kelly couldn't be bribed, the owner and his roommate now faced a heavy case. After Kelly called upon the police for help, they went to the previous owner's place to question them about the horrendous crime. He claimed to be unaware of the fact that Rocco had the infection or cut underneath the harness. He claimed to have been oblivious to the fact that Rocco was under pain and gave off a foul smell. Since he had to justify his crime, the previous owner decided to act innocent and naive. He claimed to have wanted Rocco's safety, that it was for his own good that the dog was made to wear the harness. He said it was for the purpose of stopping him from running away. When the court heard what he and his roommate had to say, they did not believe their claims. Since the two roommates who sold off Rocco to Kelly didn't have any meaningful or believable excuse regarding their crime, the court made a decision. The court found them both guilty of mistreatment of animals. As punishment, they were ordered to pay a fine of $1,500. Even if Rocco's medical bills were not necessarily going to be paid for, Kelly was happy that they got their well-deserved punishment. Since she knew that Rocco was a sweet dog who wouldn't harm anyone, Kelly believed that the court did the right thing in fining the two previous people responsible for him. She believes that a dog owner should be responsible and loving. She was happy to know that she could help in giving these two a piece of their pie and that Rocco was now away from their abusers. Like we'd mentioned earlier, as soon as Rocco and Kelly met, there was an instant connection. Rocco was immediately drawn towards Kelly, and as his rightful owner now, Kelly says she cannot imagine doing a day without Rocco anymore. "I've never felt this strong of a bond or this much love from any living thing," she confessed to interviewers. "Is this not the cutest bond ever?" Since Rocco had clearly been a victim of neglect throughout his life, this victory in justice served was only the beginning of his new journey. Yes, Rocco was indeed clear from any kind of immediate danger. However, his wound was still far from completely healing. He was going to take a while to get himself fully recovered, but there was one thing that's clear: Kelly would be right by his side. Since Rocco's injury was not just a minor cut, it was going to take a long time to heal. The doctors told her that it would take over 2 months for Rocco's injury to fully heal. Only then it would be enough for Rocco's cut to be closed. So, the main duty and work for Kelly were to keep the bandages clean and take care of him. She needed to keep the injury from being infected ever again. And as we can all guess, the process for his recovery would indeed be a painful one for Rocco the dog. It was going to be a lot of work for poor Kelly, but since she loved her new dog so much, she didn't have any second thoughts about caring for him. She was willing to do anything for the poor dog who had been traumatized and abused by two of his old keepers. In the end, the hard work and effort paid off. So, since Kelly was such a loving mother for Rocco, he had a speedy recovery and was soon fit to get the surgery that he needed. His recovery was indeed a successful one without much issue. They were finally able to let go of Rocco's horrid past, a life that was filled with hurt and ignorance. The two of them were now ready to embark upon this new journey together happily. So, since a year passed after Kelly adopted Rocco, the lovable pit bull still has a scar on his chest. Despite all of this, the charming dog Rocco is happy and shows Kelly how much he loves her every day. The two could not be happier to find each other. They're both very lucky to have found one another, and Kelly will always be reminded that animals need to be fought for every time she sees Rocco's scars. Here are some examples of abused and neglected dogs that prove that sometimes we need to take action and make that change for animals who need us. When PETA field workers discovered Boss, who is a Chihuahua Terrier mix, fleas had taken over his whole body. This ended up in him losing his precious fur, exposing his skin to become painfully raw. He has now found a new home in New York City where a doctor and teacher take care of him. Dallas is a pit bull who had become immensely emaciated because he had been chained on the outside of his house without being given any proper food. Since he had been ignored for so long, he also needed veterinary care due to his intestinal parasites. After giving much effort, PETA somehow managed to get custody of him. He soon gained 30 pounds and was as healthy as ever. When Coco was found, she was anemic and had been swarmed with parasites. To make matters worse, she actually weighed half of what a dog like her is supposed to weigh. She was in desperate need of help, so when PETA got to rescue her, she got the help she needed. The Virginia Beach SPCA then took care of her until she was able to find herself a forever family. When Holly Berry was first discovered, she had been sitting down and chained. She was kept in a muddy yard and had clearly not been given any food for a long time. She then got the medical care she needed, and now Holly Berry has the luxury of running wild with her new owners. She even won the Virginia Beach SPCA 5K back in the year 2014. When PETA field workers found Justice, he was in a terrible state. He had obviously been ignored and unattended for a long while, because for so long and his collar had become glued to his neck. This caused some seriously painful infection, but now he lives with his new owners and is as happy as can be. When this pup was found, his fur was tangled and had matter in it, and he was sick because of heartworms as well. But luckily, Jake managed to get the help he desperately needed from PETA and the Virginia Beach SPCA. He has found a new family with 1 dog and 3 other cats as siblings. Since Cora had been tied by her chain, making her unable to move around, it had left a bloody hole in her neck. When PETA saw this, they hurried to get her the help she needed. She has since found a new place to live where her owner showers her with love and affection that she had longed for. Sargent had been chained outside for the first 1.5 years of his life. When PETA came to learn about his ill treatment, they took action and somehow managed to gain custody back. After getting adopted by a psychiatrist from New York City, Sargent now lives a blissful life. Russell had been attacked by stray dogs because he was out in public unattended. He had suffered a few bites and one of his legs couldn't carry the weight of any sort. PETA stepped in to give him all the care he needed until he made a full recovery. He had a bad experience with other dogs, but he was quickly friends with the other 3 pups in his new home. PETA discovered Blue in a cage with a dead body of another dog who passed away due to starvation. The owner was sent to jail for 12 months and had to also pay a fine of $452 in restitution to PETA for veterinary bills. Blue has since found a new, loving home where he doesn't need to fear for his safety or his life.